Toxins in the brain. It takes no leap of imagination to think about drugs which control our bodies and minds. Neuroleptics such as Risperdal are enjoying great popularity among prescribers who wish to control the behavior of children. What they really do is control the mind, feelings, and the will. Other drugs target control of feelings such as SSRIs. Still others work to control the will, such as those which render children compliant in boring situations, such as the supposed ADD kids who take Ritalin. So we have some drugs control your will, some drugs control, well, they probably all do a lot of it, but some drugs are targeted to control your mind, and some drugs are targeted to control your, feelings. Okay. Universal mental health screenings arise from a naturalistic worldview which does not factor in the spiritual lives of those it screens. They don't really care what you believe about the soul or anything else. They just have their own agenda, okay? It works from the chemical imbalance theory whereby emotional, psychological, and social problems are seen as diseases or mental illness. There is never any recognition of the spiritual parts of humans since this worldview of naturalism does not admit such ideas. Here's one big problem. If the mind is part of the heart, the triple complex of mind, feeling, and will, which is controlled by the soul, what does it mean for someone to take a psychotropic drug which overpowers and takes control of mind, feelings, and will? At the very least, one has altered one's essential being and no doubt has entered very dangerous, to the soul, ground. Theists then face a quandary. Should we permit our brains to be altered? Wouldn't this logically deeply impact our spiritual lives, possibly rob us of our free will, change our feelings? This all points to a change in our heart, which is a spiritual province we must guard at all costs. If then our children, and even we ourselves, are coaxed into such programs as universal mental health screening and referred to for drug treatment, are we not acting against our very deeply held religious beliefs? Because secular humanists view emotional and psychological problems as stemming from chemical imbalances in the brain, their cures for these kinds of problems involve chemicals. Christianity and other theistic faiths have completely different views of emotional and psychological problems, often viewing them as spiritual in origin. Since the soul is immaterial, its cure cannot lie in matter or in chemistry. It lies in the intangible world of spirituality and faith. Since the overwhelming majority of Americans do actually profess belief in God, and the overwhelming majority of those who believe do so from a theistic worldview, why are millions of Americans being coaxed, drawn, and eventually, no doubt, forced to participate in programs which violate their deepest held beliefs? Isn't it time to begin to raise the question of religious freedom in connection with federal and state screenings? Yes. Okay. One vote right there. Okay. I'll take it. Okay. The downside, as I stated earlier, most Americans are not familiar with these issues and have not seen them presented in this way, although there is kind of a little uprising of getting this worldview stuff out to people, but I think it's happening most in the Christian community. It hasn't really gone out to everyone, but it's out there. Many people hold widely varying, here's the problem though. Many people hold widely varying views on different aspects of the worldview questions. They do not even know they are living in a logically inconsistent manner. Like when I say I'm a Christian who believes in reincarnation, they don't know this is not possible, so that's a problem. Many Americans actually believe that such things, oh, here's a good one. Most Americans actually believe that such things as medicine and psychiatry are somehow value-free and operating in an atmosphere of moral and spiritual neutrality. As we can see, this is absolutely untrue. When I went for this master's in counseling, one of the things they really hammered into us, it's really funny, they hammered into us that no treatment for psychological problems was value-free. And yet, at the same time, they're teaching us all about drugs because at that time, which was 10 years ago, they didn't really know about this. And unfortunately, I don't think they've even got the word on this stuff yet, but I'm going to try to change that. We'll see. Okay, here's some legal ramifications. Are there any? There's no lawyers in this? Lawyer? No? Okay, somebody's got to learn about this stuff. If we still do possess the freedom to practice any religion we choose, which is doubtful, I guess, it seems impossible to see how anyone could be forced to submit to a mental health screening, as this directly violates the most deeply held beliefs of a theist. At the very least, the legal community should begin testing this defense against UMHS in all areas. This position alone could possibly save many from forced treatments, screenings, and other assaults on the soul and body. If large numbers of people can be adequately informed of the absolutely harmful effects of psychotropic drugs to body, brain, and heart, they may begin to collectively resist these screenings programs for their children and for themselves. Our organization, ICSPP, is in the forefront of pointing out the harmful effects of many psychiatric treatments such as ECT, lobotomy, psychopharmacology, and others. It may be of great help to also include notice such as this of harm to one's spiritual life. For those who do hold a theistic worldview, this may be the most important aspect of understanding the damage biopsychiatry is doing to millions of people around the world. As mental health professionals, even if you personally hold to a differing worldview, it may be proper for you to warn people of faith that spiritual lives may be damaged by participating in screenings which result in treatment by those who have a different view of humans and their problems. I leave it to you to ponder these ideas and hope that you will seek out resources such as this presentation to be better able to inform your clients. I have prepared a short brochure outlining for the general public the views presented in this talk. Now, my brochure is really from a Christian point of view, so that's who you should give it to, or maybe Jews, I guess, or maybe Muslims, but theists. Don't give it to, New Age people, or whatever. Okay, because I think if they read this, I've gone through most of the arguments that everyone's presenting here today, and I've just summarized it, but I've also put in this stuff here. So I would like you to take them if you want, and you can reproduce it, I don't care. This brochure could be distributed in churches, churches, pastors, or any other religious organizations or places where people of faith might have access to them. And I just hope that this talk will start a people's movement against forced screening and drugging of all citizens, and especially those who by definition oppose a secular humanist worldview. So thank you very much, and that's my speech, and here are the talks. Any questions? Comments?
Go back to slide 35.
35, sure. Yeah, good one. Wow, how'd you know that? Are they numbered? How'd you know? Okay, all right. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
You asked the question.
Yeah.
Why are millions of Americans being coaxed, drawn, and eventually, no doubt, forced to participate in this program?
Yeah.
Do you think that people just don't recognize
Yeah.
the distance
Yeah.
between what they really
Yes.
believe in? Okay.
Yes. I'm sure of it. I'm positive of it because I'm a Christian counselor, not a psychiatrist. Maybe that's a good thing, though. When you see my talk, I think you'll understand. It is? Hard to hear? Yeah? Can't hear? Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay.
It's not as strong as it should be.
Well, who does that?
My hearing is marginal.
Okay. Who?
If you talk right into it,
Talk into
I
it.
will look.
Okay. All right. I come from a quite different perspective, and this talk is probably going to be nothing like anybody else's talk because it's mostly about metaphysics or philosophy or religion. So what I'm trying to do is bring my perspective and my worldview in to help people who want to avoid what everybody else is talking about. I want to give people some ammunition to fight. So that's what I'm trying to do. So the current trend in America is more and more governmental involvement in mental health services. One of the strongest movements is toward universal mental health screening, which we've been hearing about. These programs appear to help in discovering and helping those who are suffering from emotional problems. And we know, we've been talking about Teen Screen and others, they're flawed. We know that they're lacking in scientific efficacy or any other kind of efficacy. They do look like they're being scientific, but they don't deliver, and they don't screen people properly. They do present an unacceptable number of false positives, sometimes up to 80%, so are basically useless. And I guess it's no secret to anyone that the funding for the development and commission of these screening programs comes in large part from Big Pharma. The reason I'm interested in this problem is not really the screening in and of itself. Possibly it does some harm, but the harm really comes when you send people off for treatment. So the problem is they never send people, or rarely send them for counseling or therapy. They only send them for drug treatment. So Big Pharma has funded a scheme to create and perpetuate millions of new and chronic customers at the financial expense of taxpayers. The federal government, in concert with many state governments, has plans for the introduction of universal mental health screening from cradle to grave, and I know that Dr. Ephraim really pointed that out, that it is cradle to grave. Nobody escapes this, but we aren't hearing much about screening elderly right now, but I'm sure that's coming. So, that means before long, the children of America, and everyone else, will be subjected to screening and possible referral for treatment, drugging against their best interest, and the development of serious and chronic health problems, and not to mention shattered lives. I believe we're arriving at a time in America where the belief systems of various groups are at complete odds with each other. Those who have worldviews differing from those in power are in danger of having their civil liberties violated. Many Americans, even if they hold an opposing worldview, are as yet unaware that their government is acting in opposition to their beliefs, since the programs for universal mental health screening are presented in ways which disguise their true underpinnings. I'm very interested in worldview ideas and problems, and I think if we all can get an idea of what this is all about, it will really help you in strengthening people to resist these programs. Everyone has a worldview, and it's important to understand one's own worldview since it factors greatly into the way one lives one's life. Many important decisions are based on worldview beliefs. And therefore, if we don't really understand our own worldview, we cannot understand the worldviews of other people who have different worldviews and who oppose us and our beliefs. One way, let me just say this. I was watching TV about a week ago, and it was NBC News, and they had this little thing on religion or something, and they came up with this quote, which was 89% of the people in America say they believe in God. That's what they say. So just armed with that little tidbit of information, that should get us thinking a little bit about what that really means. That's what my speech is about. So, what constitutes a worldview? One way to understand the components of a coherent worldview is to ask the big 7 questions. Each worldview will answer these questions differently, leading to different conclusions about the way one should think and live. When you ask someone one of the big 7 questions, you will immediately get an idea of the worldview they hold. These are the big 7. Now, I don't mean to say that people go around thinking of these things, but they actually believe things about these questions, whether they're examined or not. So I'm just proposing that if we examine these things, we can understand where people are coming from pretty easily, really. So first of all, the big 7 is: what is prime reality, the really real? We'll leave that for a while. What is the nature of external reality, that is, the world around us? What is a human being? What happens to a person at death? Why is it possible to know anything at all? How do we know what's right and wrong? And what is the meaning of human history? So those are the big 7. That's it, not too hard. If you can answer these questions properly, or properly for one worldview, then you'll be sort of in sync with yourself. Okay, let's just get to the next thing. Why do we have to choose then? The fact is, we can't really avoid answering these questions because we all adopt one position or another. However, sometimes these choices are made unconsciously, and we may even hold a pick-and-choose worldview, which is totally inconsistent. For example, someone might say, oh yes, I'm a Christian, but I believe in reincarnation. Well, you really can't do that because Christianity and reincarnation